The Battle of Germantown, fought on October 4, 1777, was a significant engagement in the Philadelphia campaign of the American Revolutionary. It occurred just outside of Philadelphia in the town of Germantown, which is now a neighborhood within the modern city. The battle is remembered for its ambitious scope, intense fighting, and close calls for General George Washington's forces, making it one of the most dramatic episodes of the Revolutionary War. In early September 1777, the British Army led by General Sir William Howe defeated George Washington's Continental Army at the Battle of Brandywine and captured Philadelphia on September. The occupation of the American capital, a symbolic blow to the revolutionaries, was intended to demoralize the American people and disrupt the operations of the Continental Congress, which had fled the city before the British arrival. However, the fall of Philadelphia did not mean the end of the revolution. Washington had kept his army together after Brandywine and another setback at the Battle of Paoli. Retreating northwest of the city, he set up camp at Skippack Creek and began planning a counteroffensive. Washington believed that a daring attack on the British forces stationed in Germantown would help reclaim the initiative. A significant portion of General Howe's army was stationed in Germantown. The British had dispersed across Philadelphia and the surrounding area in various detachments, leaving Germantown relatively isolated. Washington saw the opportunity for a surprise attack. At the time, Germantown was a village with stone houses, narrow lanes, and rolling farmland. General Howe had stationed approximately 9,000 British and Hessian troops in and around Germantown. These troops included brigades led by Generals James Grant, Wilhelm von Nassau, and Charles Grey. Following their recent victories, British forces became complacent, and while defensive positions were established, the camp was not on high alert. Washington, with approximately 11,000 troops, decided to launch a complex, coordinated attack aimed at striking the British from multiple directions before they could effectively organize a defense. Washington's strategy was influenced by European military doctrines and possibly the recent American victory at the Battle of Trenton. The plan was to launch a four-pronged attack in the early morning hours, capitalizing on surprise and the cover of darkness. General John Sullivan led the main assault, with divisions under Nathanael Greene, Lord Stirling, and Anthony Wayne. Two separate militia columns, led by Generals William Smallwood and John Armstrong, were to attack the British flanks and rear, creating a sense of encirclement. A fourth column, led by General Greene, was to move along the Lancome Road and approach the town from the northeast. On the night of October 3, the American army began its march to Germantown. The troops moved out in near silence, hoping to arrive at their positions before dawn. A dense fog settled over the countryside, concealing the Americans while also contributing to confusion and miscommunication. Sullivan and Wayne's forces advanced down Germantown Road, while Greene moved down Lancome Road. The militia columns took more circuitous routes and were ineffective primarily due to delays and poor coordination. At dawn, Sullivan's column came across British pickets near Mount Airy. A sharp skirmish erupted which quickly escalated. The Americans pressed on with determination, and British forces began to fall back in chaos. The initial attack had some success. The Americans drove the British back toward the center of Germantown, seizing several advanced positions. Momentum was on the American side, and Washington believed that a total victory was within reach. However, several factors quickly undermined the American assault. The thick fog created widespread confusion among the attackers. Units dispersed, officers lost contact with their men, and coordinated attacks failed. One of the most pivotal events occurred at Cliveden, a massive stone mansion owned by loyalist Benjamin Chew. As Sullivan's troops advanced, they discovered that the house was occupied by approximately 120 British soldiers from the 40th Regiment, who had barricaded themselves inside. American commanders debated what to do with Cliveden. General Henry Knox, Washington's chief artillery officer, advised against leaving a fortified position in their rear, claiming that it would jeopardize their supply and retreat routes. Washington agreed and directed Knox to prepare artillery to bombard the house, while troops under General William Maxwell attempted to storm it. The resulting firefight at Cliveden ended in a bloody stalemate. British soldiers inside the mansion repelled multiple assaults, inflicting heavy casualties on the attackers and delaying the American advance. The house's thick stone walls made American musket fire ineffective. Meanwhile, Greene's column had been delayed and lost in the fog. When they finally emerged on the eastern edge of Germantown, they launched a devastating attack on British positions near Market Square. However, due to poor visibility and coordination, Greene's troops unintentionally fired on Sullivan's men, mistaking them for the enemy. The friendly fire incident created panic and confusion, forcing Sullivan's units to retreat. The American center was in disarray, and the attack's momentum had been lost. Recognizing the growing confusion among the Americans, the British began to regroup and counterattack. General Howe quickly redeployed his troops to strengthen vulnerable positions. General Grant's brigade established a new defensive line, while British light infantry and grenadiers advanced to surround Greene's forces. With Cliveden still holding out and American columns failing to coordinate effectively, the battle shifted against Washington. With mounting casualties, dwindling ammunition, and no clear path to victory, Washington declared a general retreat around Tennessee. Despite the retreat's failure to meet its objectives, it was conducted in a relatively good manner. The Continental Army retreated to its previous positions near Skippack Creek. The American casualties totaled around 1,100 killed, wounded, or captured, while the British losses were around 500. Despite its tactical defeat, the battle did not demoralize the American army. Indeed, observers at home and abroad were impressed by the plan's boldness and the courage displayed during the attack. Several prominent leaders played critical roles in the Battle of Germantown. General George Washington's vision and willingness to carry out such an audacious plan demonstrated his growing maturity. Although the attack failed, Washington's leadership and refusal to be intimidated by previous defeats instilled confidence in his troops and political allies. General John Sullivan led the main assault with zeal and aggression, but was unable to maintain momentum amid the chaos. General Nathanael Greene, as always, demonstrated dependability and discipline, even when his column became disoriented. Historians continue to debate General Henry Knox's decision to assault Cliveden, but it shows the difficult decisions commanders had to make under pressure. Among British leaders, General William Howe reacted quickly and decisively once the American attack began. He demonstrated adaptability by shifting troops to vulnerable points and maintaining cohesion under unexpected circumstances. General James Grant and other subordinate officers also played essential roles in securing the defense. The defenders of Cliveden, particularly Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Musgrave, performed admirably under siege, holding their ground against repeated assaults and making significant contributions to the British victory. The Battle of Germantown had significant consequences. First, it demonstrated to European powers that the Continental Army was evolving into a more capable and professional fighting force. The audacity of the attack impressed French military observers, including France's foreign minister, the Comte de Vergennes. Along with the victory at Saratoga later in October, Germantown helped convince France that the American cause was viable and worthy of support. This would culminate in the Franco-American alliance of early 1778, a watershed moment in the Revolutionary. Second, the battle highlighted the challenges of conducting complex operations with relatively inexperienced forces. Washington's strategy was sound, but it was overly ambitious given the limitations of training, communication, and coordination. Managing multiple converging columns in foggy conditions proved too complicated, and the lack of a unified command structure hampered field decision-making. Nonetheless, Washington learned from his mistakes and would use those lessons in future battle. Third, Germantown demonstrated the strength of the American forces. Despite a string of defeats in the Philadelphia campaign, the Continental Army fought with tenacity. The battle showed that the Americans could go on the offensive, coordinate large-scale operations, and challenge the British on their terms. This tenacity would carry over to the winter encampment at Valley Forge, where the Army would receive critical training and reorganization under the command of Baron von Steuben. Fourth, the battle demonstrated the importance of terrain and local intelligence. The decision to attack Cliveden was based on insufficient knowledge of the area and an underestimate of the house's defensive strength. Future American campaigns would place a greater emphasis on scouting and reconnaissance to avoid costly mistakes. The fog that blanketed the battlefield demonstrated how environmental factors could significantly alter the course of engagements. In the context of the Revolutionary War, the Battle of Germantown demonstrates the changing nature of the American war effort. It was one of the few times Washington attempted a large-scale, coordinated attack in a fortified enemy position. The failure did not jeopardize his leadership. Instead, it bolstered his reputation for bravery and determination. Washington's willingness to strike back increased morale and confidence in ultimate victory among his troops and the civilian population. The battle's legacy is still preserved at civil historical sites in Germantown. Cliveden, the site of the most intense fighting, is still standing and serves as a museum and historical landmark. Interpretive centers and reenactments help visitors understand the complexities of the battle and the courage of those who fought on both sides. The memory of Germantown endures as part of the broader narrative of American independence, reminding us that even in defeat, the seeds of victory can be sown.